welcome back. I'm Philip Jones, the Martini Whisperer, and happy Handmade Market to you, and happy Mother's Day. I know mothers out there have been doing it really tough lately, and God knows we need a drink about now. And is it too early for a drink? It's 11 o'clock local time, but we'll come back to that in just a minute. What I'm going to do today, I've been invited by local distillery Underground Spirits. Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in, all of you. Diamond Glacier from California, thank you. Spent 15-20 minutes or so talking about the vodkas from Underground Spirits, who are a Canberra distillery. And before I dive into that, what we're going to do every half hour is a different look at their range. So at 11:30, it's going to be gin. At 12 o'clock our time, a special release they've done for the Australian National Botanic Gardens. And at 12:30, we'll be meeting some of the team here on Instagram Live and take some questions. You're right, it's never too early for a drink. Responsible. So if you're going to drink, you might as well have the good stuff. So we'll put that here today. The distilling industry in Australia has gone through a renaissance the last several years. And at once upon a time, fun fact, we were one of the largest commercial scale producers of spirits in the world. To about the 1930s, it kind of fell away after that because depression and the war and taxation, a whole bunch of other reasons. But in the mid-90s, regulations got changed. And that meant essentially that instead of having huge industrial style skills, you could actually scale down into like 1,500 litre, 500 litre, 2,000 litre size stills. And that essentially made that little change of the law enable the renaissance and craft beer industry we have in Australia today. So there's something like, and on my website I keep a list of them all the vodka makers, the gin makers, the rums and so forth. And I count about 300 gin makers, there's over 110 vodka makers. There's a bill doubling up over there, of course, whiskey and the rest. And out of that came, this renaissance, came the local guys, Underground Spirits here in Canberra. And it's a really, really exciting brand, which I was really happy to introduce it to you. They debuted about 3 years ago, 2017, and we'll meet the team, like I said, when we get there. Oh, South Australia is here. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. So let's talk about vodka for a minute before we get to tasting. And we might do a bit of smell-o-vision, taste-o-vision as we go along. I'll have one for you and you can have one for me if you really want. That's fine. There was a few different styles of vodka, and what you need to know about vodka is that there's a few different premises how it's made. So traditionally it could be grain, it could be potato, you could even do it with corn, rye grain, wheat and so forth. And so out of that premise is really your starting point of where the vodka is going to end up. Now I have the privilege of judging vodkas in spirit competitions there a few times a year when we get back to normal, touch wood soon, Perth Royal Show, the New Zealand Craft Spirit Awards and places like that. And we spend a day judging vodka. And so as a judge, what do you look for in vodka? And the vodka is really about, you're looking for purity, or you might be looking for some complexity. And you have two different styles. This is my personal opinion about where these things can go. You either get a really pristine, pure, very elegant, crisp kind of style of vodka, or you might get one of the more richer, textured, organic styles, which are there to talk about their potatoes or where they've come from or their terroir even. And they're the two, to my mind, they're two kind of philosophies you can go. And a lot of vodka makers talk a big game about purity and crystallization. They go a bit silly with the branding and all the rest of it. So I've got a lot of strong views on that. You'd be pleased to know that Underground are none of those things. And what they've actually done is created some very interesting spirits, which are very, very pure and very elegant to my mind. But let's start at the beginning sort of thing. Let's look at this packaging here. So if I can hold this up, you can see. This beautiful, elegant, crisp, contemporary style presentation. And why this matters is that for the non-locals, Canberra is a design city. It's a relatively new city. It's over 100 years old. I created the Centennial Martini for its official occasion. And thanks everybody. Hey, Handmade Market too. Everybody's here. So exciting. Where was I? Yeah, Canberra's a relatively new city. So though it's over 100 years old, technically speaking, the modern city we experience today is really from the mid-60s, 70s onwards. And so it's designed in terms of urban planning and landscapes and roundabouts and all the rest of it. So in a very subtle way, the labelling of Underground Spirits speaks to contemporary Canberra, which I think is really important to know. In that what they're going for, is my view, what they're going for is a very contemporary expression of spirits. And we'll get to that. So they're vodka. They offer 2 vodkas. They have some special releases. So I'm going to talk to you about their classic vodka, if you like. And they also have a really nice vodka with caramel, which is kind of fun. And they start with a wheat spirit. So it's going to have, and what they're aiming for is one of those ones that's a very pristine, elegant, crisp, and subtle vodka. Sort of things you'd love in a martini, for example. No surprises there on my part. Or just even neat and really, really clean. They use local water, and we're very fortunate here in Canberra, just outside the city. There's native catchment areas, so there's no industry, there's no farms, and the water is as pure and pristine as they could possibly get. They use that. And the other key difference is that when they get the grain, which is from a sustainably sourced farmers not too far from here, the filtration process, and we'll talk to the guys later on in another session about how to actually get the nitty-gritty of this. And they've got a patented method of purifying their spirit, which makes a huge difference to the finish of the vodka. So let's do a bit of smell-o-vision, shall we? And if you've got a question, by all means, jump in and I'll do my best to answer them. So, is it too early? Yeah, it's not for too early. So this is there's a classic vodka, and I mentioned before about when we judge, 20% of the mark is actually, out of 100 points, is the nose. And what you don't want is spirit volatility. You don't want it, dare I say it, to smell like booze. It should be attractive, it should be clean, it should be free of volatility and some spirit. But you want a bit of a hint of what's to follow on the palate. And I'm not going to bore you with, getting all jargony and stuff on you. So what I get here is a very light, elegant, almost like a subtle minty kind of nose, which speaks to the spirit just a little bit, but it's very, very clean, and it's not off-putting whatsoever. Then what you're looking for when you're tasting a vodka is, if you like the brand promise, follow through. What you're smelling, you should be able to get on the palate. Otherwise, there's a bit of a disconnect here. And again, thanks everybody for tuning in. It's like to have a great audience. And here's to you, and I hope you're all staying safe and well. And this is to all the mothers out there. This is for you guys. So you've got to imagine what it's tasting like right now. Very little, there's heat from the spirit, but not in a bad way. It's very dry finish and light on the palate. And overall very subtle. And because it's a grain-based spirit, I do pick up some of those toasty notes, but it's very, very, very subtle. So the net result is around this kind of spirit is you've got a very clean, elegant, crisp vodka that's also quite versatile. And it would, again, cry out for a dry martini with a twist, I think, would be best. Or neat, chilled. I would probably keep this in the freezer and so on. And I'd also think about, of course, as a general mixer. I mean, that's the great thing about vodka. It is so versatile. Let's have a look at their caramel one, which is very interesting. I planned ahead. I've had breakfast too, which is probably just as reassuring. So again, what we're doing today, for those just tuning in, is this is the first of 4 15-minute little sessions, me talking about, and been invited by Underground Spirits to talk about their range and introduce it to you. And Handmade Market, which is a fantastic, again, local business here in Canberra, are doing a virtual market sale for Mother's Day. So if you are interested and you want to get some good stuff, there's a whole range of really high quality craftsmanship items, all different sizes on them. It's at handmadecanberra.com.au. Or of course, if you want to buy, if you get thirsty enough and you want to jump online and get some of the underground vodka and gins and everything we'll talk about later, I'll give it a website in a minute. All right, let's talk about this caramel stuff then. Now, I was talking about judging before. There's a category of vodkas, flavoured vodkas, some flavoured gins, and often they're like strawberries or berries. And I think there's a special circle of hell for people who make that stuff, because usually the last thing you get to judge at the end of the day. And it's like often putting your head into a pack of lollies or candy, and it's just really quite, especially when the additives, when they make the vodka and then they add the additives to make the flavour, make them like a strawberry vodka or whatever, a raspberry vodka, it can be really off-putting. So again, if I was to judge this, for example, I'd be looking for, again, purity, cleanliness, finesse, and definitely no kind of hit me over the head with artificial sugars kind of hit. So let's see how we go. This is the caramel vodka from Underground. Cheers. This is going to be fun after 2 hours. I'm going to be a laugh, guaranteed. Okay, on the nose, caramel. Think, if you've had those juicy caramel lollies, you know, the caramel ones with white filling, very evocative. Quite delicious. It's straight up and down, crisp, clean, caramel, very natural kind of flavour. What would you do with this drink? Well, you just probably just knock it back over ice, I think. Kind of fun in a bubble bath. No, seriously. You could have fun in espresso martini. So you could have some of the regular vodka and a splash of this caramel vodka in it, and then you add your espresso coffee and so forth, and shake it down. And that could be a really, really fun combination. I was thinking before you guys joined me, but what also I could do with it, a fun little affogato. You know, when you had espresso coffee and ice cream on summer, and do that. But the guys underground also tell me what they do is they've got a recipe, and it's got, now you can cut this two different ways. You could have the caramel vodka, some cloudy apple juice, and a touch of cinnamon, and you can stir that over ice in a short glass. Or I think it's a nice hot summer day, you could do the apple juice, the caramel vodka, tall glass of soda, and a dusting of like a cinnamon stick or something like that. So really, really nice drink. And again, it hasn't got that really candied, uber sweetness flavour to it. So I think, again, their philosophy, we talked about this when we talked to them at 12:30, is their approach and their philosophy around how they make their spirits. All right. Let's go back to distillation process. Now, one thing about the vodkas is a lot of distillers who make vodka make a big deal about the distillation, how many times it's been filtered. So distillation process, go back from the beginning for a minute. So you've got your natural spirit from your wheat base, which is then distilled and then diluted or cut down to with local water. And again, in the case of underground, they're landing at 40% alcohol by volume. So nice little pitch point, not too boozy. So once they make the spirit, that's then diluted with the water and so forth. It's then kind of filtrated through. Well, actually, before they even cut it, they do a filtration process. And the filtration process, in the case of underground, they use down to the micron level. And I guess we'll talk to them later on today how they do that. It's a patent process just unique to them. What it means, bottom line, it goes about 20 times for the vodka, which is quite a lot in the scheme of things. And so the net result is why you're getting such a pristine end product. They're taking all the impurities, all the volatilities out, and what you should be left with after all that effort, there's a fair bit of time and money goes into all that kind of process, is a very crisp, kind of clean number. It's also bearing in mind the scale of operation here. Most distillers in Australia are rural regional Australia. As I said, there was over 300 gin makers, over almost 110 vodka makers, and counting. Most of them are family-run businesses, and underground's none the same. And so it's a small operation, small still, everything's hand-bottled, hand-labelled, hand-packaged, put in a truck. So we're not talking a big corporate concern here. And I think, when I write about distillers and craft spirits in general, I think they're always the heroes of the story to me. I just have the fun job of actually just drinking on the job just for you guys, really. So I'm happy to take some questions while we're doing it, and I'll just rattle on just a little bit more. So, so the caramel vodka here with the kind of label comes in. It's still 40% alcohol by volume. Cryo-filtered based on Australian wheat. So again, very clean, not too sweet. And if you love your caramel, again, you can just have it neat on ice, I reckon I would say. And the regular vodka, again, same sort of process, but just for about the flavours here. If you like, vodka gets a bad rap, and rightly so sometimes, but every so often, and I'm pretty fussy about the vodkas I talk about. I did a review for a Polish vodka yesterday, and I've got some others from California, for example, on my website, who are here today as well, tuning in. When they're done right, there should be a really nice subtlety and finesse about them, and these guys here at Underground happily have nailed that, which is kind of reassuring, really. Again, for the folks who've just joined in, just to recap, so I'm just having a little chinwag about Underground Spirits, and what we're going to be doing in the next session is talking about their gin range, and that's at 11:30, and then at 12, they've got a very special release done for the Australian Botanic Gardens 50th anniversary, which will go in depth for them around that. And then at, looking on the clock here, at 12:30, we'll have some of the gang from Underground here to take your questions. So by all means, if you've got a comment or something, please send them our way, and they're listening as we go and do that. Let me talk about the state of industry in general while we're still here. As I said, the industry's grown very, very fast in a short time, and I'm adding another 2 free distillers a week pretty much to my website directory. And so it's a very, very exciting time, and what's really interesting about the industry at the moment, it's the creativity that goes into it. So many of them are kind of inspired by their own place. It's the same way winemakers are inspired by their own terroir and work with what ingredients in the landscape and the soil goes into it. So the craft distilling is an interesting hybrid. If you think about it. You've got natural ingredients and inputs, if you like the grain and the water and the botanicals of gins and so on. Then you've got a technological process to convert it into the spirit. Then it's got organic matter again, if you like, from the water and the way it's handled, and those decision points along the way where they want to end up. So the distillers I meet are sometimes, dare I say it, partly mad scientist, part engineer, part chemist. So it's a very, very interesting industry to keep an eye on and watch. And in the context of Australia is that, it's really up for grabs in terms of the market share is quite small overall. So, top of my head, I think it's about $2 billion spirit sold each year in Australia. It's probably about 3 billion right now because of COVID. We're all doing our bit. But of that big pie of spirits sold in Australia, only about 2-3%, if that, is craft spirits, like companies like Underground, and all the ones you know. And out of that percentage, you've got some bigger players and well-known labels, I'm sure you know who they are, who get a bigger share of that. But that bit of pie is growing because people like yourselves are, trust the brand and trust again. But there are challenges around getting to market, getting awareness. Again, a lot of these businesses are family-run businesses or small businesses or rural regional Australia. So they literally have to bottle and put in the car and take them to a market, and then we're doing it virtually today, so to speak. And then there's a higher excise rate. So the distillers pay, on average, if you pick up a bottle of spirit, so it's $80, $90 a spirit, a third of that is a thing called excise, which goes to the Commonwealth or federal government, and that's pretty much paid as soon as they make it. So it's a pretty expensive business, and they don't get much back in return from that. They get a rebate of about $100,000 a year. And so it's very challenging. They've got to spend this money up front when they're making the booze to the tax office, and then hopefully get the sale and make it back downstream. So not without its challenges. So there you are. That's vodka for the moment. I'll dip out and I'll come back in about 10 minutes. We'll be back at 1:30 to talk about the gin. So thanks for tuning in. We'll keep these nice and short and sweet. And if you've got some questions, save them up and we'll fill them a bit later. So love your work. I'll go back to the vodka, and you stay well, and I'll see you.